Welcome to the PropsClear podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Angeline. We'll be speaking all about drones and improving public perception around them. We'll also be discussing the impacts regulations have had on the industry. So fasten your seatbelts and let's get started. Today's guest is Brian Leventhal. He's with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. He's a drone pilot as well as a helicopter pilot, and he helped start a drone program there. Tell me how you got involved in working with drones.
So I first got involved with drones probably back in 2016. I'm a state trooper with the Highway Patrol in North Carolina, and at the time I was doing crash reconstruction. So we were looking for a better way to map our crash scenes, something more efficient and safer to get us out of the road as fast as possible. And so we found drones as a great solution. So I helped start the program that we have at the Highway Patrol back then. And we weren't the first in the nation to do it, but we were definitely an early adopter, and we got pretty vocal about the work we were doing just to share with other agencies. How it could help their mission as well. And that's what got me involved. And I've just kind of gotten passionate about it and stayed involved in the industry ever since.
Did you get certified, and what was that process like for you since you were an early adopter? What was that process like? Because I know in the beginning there were a lot of, uh, you know, bumps along the way for a lot of people that were trying to get certified at that point in time.
Yeah, so when we started our program, Part 107 was already in place. And there was also the you could do the COA route for public agencies also, but we decided to do Part 107. So all of our pilots, we basically self-trained ourselves to get proficient to take the Part 107 exam, and that's kind of the certification route we've gone since.
What do you think is the biggest pitfall for a lot of public safety teams now trying to get certified, trying to go through the process of getting drones onto their team as one of their teammates?
I think it kind of varies between agencies. Sometimes it's public perception. Sometimes it's getting the agency heads to buy in, because the officers out on the road, they see the benefit. They've talked with other agencies that are using it, so they know that there's value there. And then sometimes it's just a matter of being able to convince the decision makers at the agency that it's worth the monetary investment and the time to outfit their officers.
How do you think public perception can be improved going forward in this current day and age?
So I think, when you talk about public perception, most of the time people, I think they tend to they'll watch TV shows or movies and kind of see what's given to you through those outlets, and they sometimes assume that that's exactly how everything functions, and may get certain perceptions. So I think that's always an uphill battle for public safety agencies in a lot of the things they function with, but drones in particular. But I think one of the important things, and one of the things we did, was just kind of be transparent about what you're doing, what the technology is that you're using, what it's capable of, what it's not capable of. And one of the things we did was we actually invited the media out to an event where we staged a crash scene, and we kind of showed the workflow, showed what the technology was, the data that it would capture, and how we used the data, and what the final outcome was. And I think if agencies, there's a couple different ways you can do it, but that's just one example of just trying to be transparent and showing the public um, how the technology is being used and how it benefits the agency, which in turn benefits the citizens they serve.
And one thing I didn't realize, and I loved hearing, is that the public officers don't wear a body cam when they are flying the drone in a lot of cases right now, and the drone is first responder programs across the country. And they're also using, I think they're also only recording if it's something of true value.
A lot of that all depends on, it's going to vary widely with agencies. It's going to depend on what the laws are in their area. It's going to depend on what their policy is. I think one of the big things with whether it's drones or body cameras or whatnot is data management. Um, you know, everything you record, it all has to get stored somewhere, and then there's retention policies about how long you keep it. So all of those are challenges for agencies as they start to use technology that's has a data component to it. Is how do you balance what you need versus what needs to be retained?
Do you think there could be something like public days where the public can come by and watch, a drone take off, watch it land, talk with the pilots?
Yeah, yeah, I think a lot of agencies do this already. I think you'll see different agencies will have community policing events where they'll kind of engage with the public and they might have their canines out there, kind of showcasing the different units they have. And I think now a lot of agencies that have started using drones will bring out that equipment also so that the public can kind of take a look at it and get up close and see what it is that they've got and how they're using it. But all of that is, it's all very important. It's that part of that transparency piece and just being open to the public and letting them see what it is you're the technology you have and how you're using it.
What else is the North Carolina Highway Patrol using drones for besides crash reconstruction?
Yeah, so the biggest part was crash reconstruction. Then in 2018, here we had Hurricane Florence, which impacted the eastern part of the state pretty severely. And we partnered with NCDOT and actually kind of sent teams to the eastern part of the state and started using it for damage assessment. So there were sections of the state that basically, you know, became islands that you just couldn't get to them. So we were able to fly down in aircraft and then deploy teams and start sending the images and videos, and we would do some mapping and send that all back so that they could start to get plans on what equipment and resources were needed, so that when the waters did recede, that they could go ahead and get to work and not have any delays in the recovery efforts.
And that's been a lot of my experience with drones in the past couple of years as a correspondent with the AccuWeather Network, seeing the impact that drones have after storms. And even before storms, being able to see what an area looks like from up above before any damage hits, and then when damage actually happens, being able to go back to certain areas and seeing how, the ocean may have carved a different path or may have eroded certain areas, but I know that law enforcement are also using it. They were using it a lot during in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian last year in Fort Myers Beach and some of those areas. Drone operations, in addition to the Coast Guard helicopters. You are also a helicopter pilot, correct?
Yes, yeah. I transitioned over to our aircraft operations unit. I think it was back in 2019. So yes, now I do fly helicopters for us.
So now a lot of people say that drones are replacing aircraft like helicopters. What is your view on that since you do both?
So it's something you hear a lot, and I don't, I don't think we're there yet. And I think we're a pretty good ways off from drones replacing helicopters. The way I view it, it's another tool in your toolbox. So there's some missions that are better suited for a helicopter. There's some missions that are better suited for a drone. I think both air assets complement each other, and you actually see a lot of agencies that are incorporating their drone units into their um, uh, manned aviation asset units and kind of blending them together. So there's room for both. Like I said, it's another tool in the toolbox.
What do you see in the next 5 years with drones being used more often? Do you think we're going to see them more in the sky? Do you think you'll just be driving down the road and have your sunroof open and see one just go by delivering a package, or going to help officers with the latest call 911 call. What have you, or at least what do you think, and then what have you been hearing, and is there a difference between those two?
Yeah, so I think we can, if we look back to when the FAA did the IPP programs here in North Carolina, we actually had one for package delivery, which was at the hospital at Wake Med, and that's still active. There's other package delivery models being worked on in North Carolina right now. If you look at one of the other IPP projects was Chula Vista Police Department and their DFR program, Drone as a First Responder. I think those are going to be the biggest areas between package delivery and drone as a first responder. And I think if we look at what the FAA is doing, they're trying to, you got safety concerns, obviously, and you want to make sure it's done correctly. But I think they're starting to provide pathways for um, either public safety agencies with DFR or businesses with package delivery to start working on these projects and finding ways to advance the technology. And I think remote ID is a little bit controversial, but I think it's one of those things that's going to help with it. I mean, even the FAA even says it's part of their UTM, their unmanned traffic management program, or the things that they're working on to help facilitate safe flight with unmanned traffic management. So I think all of those things are what's going to kind of be leading the way with drones.
And for anyone who may be listening, who may not understand what remote ID is, they may just understand the blanket idea of drones as something that, has a few propellers, flies in the sky. Remote ID is something where, every drone starting in 6 months now, not now, is going to be required to have basically a license plate on it, electronically speaking, that allows people to know when a drone is up in the sky. Is there anything else you can add to that to help explain what remote ID is?
Kind of the basic way to break it down is if I see a drone flying in the sky and I have questions about what it's doing or where it launched from or who it belongs to, I think there's going to be a way that the public can identify the drone, not so much the operator, but be able to get some limited amount of information about it. And then if there are some concerns, they can pass that on to law enforcement that will be able to have some more investigative tools at their disposal. It's kind of similar to, I mean, I think you mentioned like it's kind of like a license plate. So if you're driving down the road and you see somebody, driving crazy or doing something unsafe, you know, you've got limited amount of ability to identify that car, but you can get the license plate, give it to law enforcement. They have much more resources to help identify who that driver is, and if something needs to be done about it. So that's kind of a basic idea of remote ID.
I think the package delivery concept, well, in addition to the drone as first responder too, but I think the package delivery concept is so exciting. I mean, I was talking to someone about how like they were getting, you know, goods delivered right to their backyard. Like dessert. I think they were getting dessert delivered right to their backyard. And they were like, yeah, just on a Friday night, just, sitting there, click, click, a couple buttons, and then like they've got dessert like dropping from the sky. It's kind of a cool concept. It's kind of almost like the idea of, when grocery delivery became a thing during COVID, where you click a few buttons and your groceries are just sitting at your front door. It's kind of a novel concept for a lot of people. I think I know it was for me. So it's just an interesting concept here to think that not only is it going to be sitting at your door, but it's going to be having traveled through the sky to come.
Yeah,
It's very futuristic, but in a really cool way that it's here. Like that technology is here and it's here to stay, correct?
yeah, absolutely. It's fun to be on the forefront of it and watch it develop too. So it's a neat opportunity.
What's something that you're learning that you'd like to learn to expand your mind about drones? Since I mean you started early on. A lot of people didn't start as early as you. So you may know a lot of the basics and a lot of the advanced concepts. So what's something that you're trying to teach yourself now to help be prepared for what's coming?
I think one of the, there's probably a couple different ways you could look at it. Just staying up on regulations is pretty important. I mean, it's definitely it's changing. pretty much every year something new is getting rolled out. Um, so staying up on regulations, I think I really think the DFR programs, drone as a first responder. If you're just looking at public safety operations, I think that's going to be pretty exciting to watch. It's definitely going to be in probably more urban areas at first, just partly because of regulations. But it's been exciting to watch what Chula Vista's done, and then other agencies are starting to build programs out and be successful. So I think that's a good area if somebody's looking to learn regulations and for public safety DFR programs.
Do you think the US is behind other countries in trying to do a lot of this work? That's something else that I feel like was a theme almost for a lot of the past, couple of weeks of discussions and what I've seen in other, message boards about drones is that the US needs to catch up.
I don't, it's hard to, I don't know how regulations work in other countries. I think one of the biggest roadblocks that a lot of, I guess, that the private industry has here in the U.S. is surrounding BV loss or beyond visual line of sight flight, and that's a big part of the package delivery and drone as a first responder. So again, we're starting to see the FAA kind of, I don't want to say loosen the reins, but they're open to you know being flexible and starting to make help the regulations kind of um, help these businesses and these private industry be able to work on these projects.
Because it's got to be tough for a lot of these businesses because as the regulations keep changing and the benchmarks keep changing, it's costing them money waiting for something like that to happen. And it's costing, I'm sure, public safety teams money too, waiting for something like BV loss to get approved fully.
Yeah,
I know there were some waivers listed, given out recently, but it seems like it's limited, very limited still.
yeah, there's some pathways for public safety to work around some of that stuff. But for the most part, our hands, as far as public safety, our hands are kind of tied. There's only so much you can do. Whereas, private industry, if they don't like the way regulations are here, they can go find somewhere that has less regulations that suits the project they're working on. So it's important for the U.S. to be open to providing pathways, even if it's not broadly throughout, the entire U.S. until stuff gets, use cases get proven. Having U.S. corridors or areas where, companies can go and work on projects and develop and improve safety and use case, I think is important.
Now, flying sounds like it's completely part of your job, but do you ever fly for fun?
Fly drones for fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a couple myself, so I still fly them occasionally. Um, Sometimes my kids will be interested in it, so yeah, it's still something I do for fun. It's definitely much cheaper than flying aircraft you've got to put fuel in. So
That is absolutely true. Though I did see a drone on the exhibit floor that was gasoline powered. There was a giant gasoline tank. I thought that was really interesting because that was something I hadn't really thought about because most of the time you're just thinking about charging batteries in the corner. Is there a spot you love to fly for like those perfect, landscape shots?
one of the places I think I really enjoy flying that has good views is the eastern part of North Carolina. So when we go to the beach, a lot of good shots down at the beach. Um, So yeah, that'd probably be my favorite.
Thanks so much for watching. Follow PropsClear wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you have suggestions about guests or topics for the show, email me angelswings.jillian@gmail.com.